Joey Only Caribou Weather Dude here. Hit like, share, subscribe. Here's a new forecast for you this week. It's Sunday, the 14th of July, just before noontime at this recording of this forecast. We weathered some storms this week in BC. We weathered some hot weather. There was some fire starts, but all in all, I think we came out pretty good. Better than maybe a lot of us expected, which is nice, or at least we knew it was possible that things could have been worse. Well, we do have challenges coming this week too. We have some an offshore low that's developing in a couple days from now that will send some instability in the province. We're kind of waiting to see where exactly that low is going to move through into the north, but it's probably going to bring its rain into the northern part of BC, into the Yukon and whatnot. So southern BC is going to stay dry for the next 10 days. We got more heat coming, and that instability will trigger a few thunderstorms this week still nonetheless. So we have challenges this week. It's not all bad news, but this is bad news. That's my show. Let's go.
There it is. This is bad news.
My God.
Falling out right now.
Anything could happen.
Get on!
Wow. I'll watch the video later.
Feel the heat.
People are going to the water. They dry up in this.
So in British Columbia on Sunday, there's only a minimal risk of thunderstorms, and that kind of carries through into Monday too. Maybe there is that risk of popcorns through the week popping off and giving us some lightning in places, non-severe storms, and I think Monday could see some of that. There's strong thunderstorms going on in Alberta today, where BC remains mostly quiet, and we just have that risk of non-severe thunderstorm most likely in Cranbrook. Just a quick word, if you do want to hit like, share, subscribe, help me grow the channel. It is growing right now pretty good. And great video from the thunderstorm we had last week that started up a bunch of fires. You probably really enjoy this one. Some fantastic lightning strikes. And last night I was out collecting grizzly bear poop. What I do, brand new movie, Fire and Lightning, pretty cool that I made. So what is going on in Canada right now? I'll always start here in BC, where we do have those heat warnings still continuing down the south, daytime highs in the 30, overnight lows in the mid-teens. Yeah, we are closer to seasonal weather for most of the province, but it's still pretty hot down there. There's some blob of heat down in Washington State they think is coming, which could get them up into plus 40 and whatnot. Well, some of that could spill a little north, and maybe that's indicative of maybe what we'd see in some of those deeper valleys in southern British Columbia once again. Poor air quality remains up in northern Alberta because of wildfires. Heat warning up into Fort Providence, Northern Territories, and areas around Yellowknife. 28 to 33 degrees in Yellowknife, people. Rocked. Here we are up into very northern parts of Canada, and 30 degrees expected. Humidex values nearing 36 for Thunder Bay. Little relief as nighttime temperatures are at 18 degrees. Severe thunderstorm warning up in Quebec. Heat warning in southern Ontario. Humidex values near 40 in places. Heat, heat, heat. You get the picture. Warm air is still bulging up into the north, and that shows our heat warnings. And we go through the week. We may be seeing that disturbance moving up through northern British Columbia. So we're waiting to find out what's going to look like this week. You know, when you blast through the models quickly, you see lots of reds into BC, and you don't see much for the rain blobs. A little bit Thursday maybe. So we're talking about dry thunderstorms when they come. They're talking about dry thunderstorms being what we're looking at in BC, and then maybe Sunday, Monday, larger disturbance tailing at the end of this low. Well, let's talk about the low. Here we are more or less right now. Enjoying nice weather. We got this big high pressure that's just sort of reaching in all the way up to BC more or less. And in this little pocket between Alaska and this high pressure ridge, we're going to watch overnight Monday as some of that moisture begins to gather itself, deepen a little bit, and create itself a low. You'll see how these lows kind of like split and a little weak low goes off. Now, these are not strong lows at all. I mean, 10, 13, I mean, that's sort of high pressure almost. It's not like there's a cold, warm clash that's really strong that can help these lows super develop. But here we are, you see it really pull itself together on Tuesday. And now it's going to start driving some of that instability into the province as it does so. You can see Tuesday at nighttime, in the afternoon, what are we looking at? You know, that possibility of those mountain ridge popcorn storms that sort of form up on the mountain tops and the higher places don't really affect the valley so much, but the lightning will strike up on those places and, you know, give us that possibility of fire. When you get a little further north, there could be some precipitation with those, but when you look at these ones, no, there doesn't seem like there's any precipitation at all, right? Well, look at the next 3 days of what we're expecting to see here for rain accumulation. The next 5 days, nothing in southern BC. Next 10 days, pretty much nothing in southern BC. We see where that low is expected to track through when it forms and takes off. We're expecting to go into the northern part of BC. This may help the fire situation eventually up there. So you see how here's the low kind of deepening off the coast. GFS, ECMWF, they both mostly say the same things here, right? So we see a thunderstorm threat on Thursday breaking out across Western Canada from Churchill, Manitoba, right through La Ronge, Saskatchewan, and down into Alberta. Northern BC getting some of that instability ahead of this low could light up some thunderstorms there, trigger some storms, especially Thursday. But it looks like these storms are going to come with more precipitation, more moisture than we've been seeing this last week, and more moisture than southern BC will see. So as you can see, like we're not seeing a lot on here for southern BC. Mostly our story is heat into the week. Mostly this precipitation instability goes north. Probably going to see some thunderstorm outbreaks in the midst of that up there. And now we're looking a week out, so we're not going to take any of this too seriously. It will remain to see how that next sort of low develops, how that next front moves through before this larger high pressure just takes over the Pacific. So that's more or less what's going on. So a little bit of weak low forming and then the high pressure just squeezing it inland. So like on Monday, if we get a few of these popcorns in Quesnel Lake and maybe stronger ones down in Cranbrook and places like that, don't be too surprised. And they're not going to come with much for rain. They're just not. They're not. We're going to see very isolated storms. It's going to be a real watch for which clouds start to grow. Which clouds start to grow. Do we see, this is sort of new. Didn't really see any prediction on Monday until right now. I've been looking at models for a couple days, so I guess that's what I was waiting till now. So we do have a slight risk in the Caribou on Monday as well, right? So I know there's a new fire out by NASCO that was reported. I have no information on that. You can check BC Wildfire Service. Do report all smoke, star 5555. Again, Tuesday, we're looking at those, what I would call maybe some stronger storms in there, but mostly popcorns, mostly individual cells. They're not going to have a lot of moisture to work with once again, but they could be fire starters. We are concerned about them. Wednesday, the pattern sort of continues. Maybe things being a little less random in the south, maybe some stronger storms on Wednesday. So we'll be kind of looking at Wednesday, and then the Caribou could see a pretty good round too. Thursday, thunderstorms exploding across Western Canada again, like we showed earlier, from all the way from Hudson Bay across northern BC being more and more the target of that instability. So expect a lot of lightning up there. But like I say, we do have rain coming up there too. So some fire starts up there. Maybe they'll light up and burn pretty good for a day or two. But we're looking at some rain totals coming up to the north. So that should really help the situation, right? So good news for northern BC, if you can just weather kind of another week of lightning and heat, there is rain coming to you especially, right, for a change. And look at some of these thunderstorms up in northern Alberta on Friday. Wicked. So in northern BC, see that low moving north. It's throwing moisture inland. There's a pretty good chance that we're still going to see that next Saturday again. We saw that kind of last week where there's just like a line of thunderstorms across the north that was unbelievable. Not out of the question a repeat episode. Could see very strong thunderstorms on Sunday next week, but again, we're looking a week out now, so we're not going to hum and haw too much about these locations and whatever. And then we know next week, Monday, could also be. They seem pretty firm on some of these things, but again, exact locations and timing, that's always this far out up for play, right? So we'll see. We'll keep you in the know here, right? But in through Tuesday, we are looking in southern BC at seeing some potentially 34s and things like that. Some very warm temperatures. That's going to continue up in the north. Alberta getting pretty warm. Saskatchewan mostly warm. A little bit of a break for everybody. They haven't had the greatest summer, I don't think, so far in Manitoba. And you see how hot that low is down. We're looking at 41 degrees down in Washington State, right? And some of those dry belts, some of those desert belts. So that's something we're concerned about. Definitely going to see days of heat coming still into BC. Days of above average temperatures, maybe not shockingly hot in some cases. In some cases, you could call it summer weather. But I think anytime you start getting above 35 in these places in the Caribou, you're talking about deep heat. You're talking about talking about something worth keeping, worth remembering. 35 is hot. People are sort of resetting the bar and pretending that 35 isn't hot anymore, and that's just not the case. 35 has always been hot. So more or less warm through the entire week until we begin to see a bit of a pattern change where that instability moving through, that weather change, that cold front moving through is going to change the story for us for a little while, and then we're going to have to really look at the following week as we get closer to it to see when do things rebound a little bit. But then by then we're getting later in July, and we may have survived some of the hottest weather we're going to see this year. And don't fool yourself as we're going through this week. When you look at some of these humidex values, even Monday in a lot of places, we're looking at crossover weather. We're looking at when the humidity is lower than the temperature is high, we call that crossover, right? That's when fires burn the most aggressively. And if we start adding wind into this, well, now we have a whole new thing to think about. We look at wind accumulation, certainly the next 3 days going into the Yukon, there's going to be some stronger winds up there. So that's a big one we're really looking for is there going to be a wind event? And we know that these cold fronts often do come with wind events, maybe some stronger gusts on Wednesdays down south. But it's really northern BC that's taking the brunt of those stronger winds until we get to Thursday when that offshore low begins to fire some stronger wind gusts into southern BC. That's when we're going to have one of our hottest days of the week. That's when there's going to be some thunderstorm activity going on too. So we will be looking this week at what kind of winds are we getting when. We'll be coming back to that here in the channel. Fire danger in southern BC. Not too much in the extreme category yet. If we look at that build-up index, really that's a matter of conditions right now. Weather conditions more than it is fuel conditions. So you see that the build-up index, things are very dry now. Things are kind of ready. And if we start moving towards the end of the week, towards that Thursday when we could be seeing those stronger winds, we're going to see fire conditions really be a threat all across that large swath of Western Canada. Maybe a little less so for Saskatchewan, but they're still in high indices. Only a little bit of high indices into parts of Manitoba, but you look up in the Northwest Territories, it's like the whole Northwest Territories is primed to burn. So anything that lights up there, they're going to really need that moisture when it comes. And that's the hope that this offshore low, maybe it's going to trigger some instability. Maybe it's going to send some weak thunderstorms into southern BC. Some of them might get a little stronger, sure, but the real thing is that if it can move north and douse a whole bunch of these fires next weekend sometime, that would be so amazing. So we are hoping for that. So that's some of the good news and some of the bad news. You can't have it all good, you can't have it all bad. That's just the nature of weather. Anyways, if you find any of my forecasts helpful and informative, please hit like, share, subscribe. I'll probably try to make a new video on Tuesday because will be sort of the beginning of this next sort of round of bubble up thunderstorms and maybe looking at stronger possibilities on Wednesday, Thursday that maybe we see some stronger organizations. So all things to look at this week. That's your heads up. Okay, bye for now, everybody. Make sure to call in them smokes if you see them. *555.